Being a mix and master engineer for the past 6 to 7 years now, I learned a majority of my stuff from YouTube. Plus, also being in the studio and getting experience. Back in the day, it used to be a case where you had to go to Full Sail University or one of them expensive places, or you were fortunate enough to have a mentor where you're running around getting them coffee and stuff like that up until a point where they promote you to the big boy leagues and you can actually touch the desk. But in saying that, today's video, we got someone that's been able to actually go all across the internet and find 15 mixing tricks from pros and people that have gone full time in this. So I'm gonna leave the link down below because I want you guys to definitely watch all of it. But we're gonna actually go through some of the techniques, how I use them, and also how you guys can use them as well.
Trick number one is stop using compression. Kind of. Compression is a very powerful tool and we use it all the time, but it can be over relied on if we're not careful. One of the mixing engineers for Billie Eilish said he didn't use compression for over 5 years, but he did something else. Watch what he has to say.
For 5 years, I didn't use any compressors on any mixes, but I
Really?
used like saturation, I used limiters, I used other types of dynamic control, but I did 5 years without one compressor on a mix. The compressor just limits dynamic range. It
Right.
controls dynamic range. So you just automate or you clip gain. Now that Pro Tools and Logic and Ableton have the clip function, like
Right.
I would just go through a vocal and I would even out the vocals. Like, why do I need to compress a vocal when I can just like see the waveform and turn it up or down and make the thing cohesive?
That's really cool.
And he mentioned not over relying on compression. Now, compression is a powerful tool. It's awesome. I use it all the time, and a lot of professionals use it all the time, but an over reliance on it can make things sound just a bit robotic or even squashed.
Guys, I agree. I definitely agree when it comes to, for example, compression can make things lose their dynamics and a bit squashed, etc. But not using compression for 5 years. If I was to turn over a mix with someone and there was no compressor on that, they'll probably look at me like, bro, what are you doing? Kind of vibe. So it's very interesting. I feel as if though, in terms of not using the compressor at all, is a bit wild. Like even in live sound, for example, when I do mixing here and there, for example, for my church, or around a lot of mix engineers that actually mix for different venues and stuff like that, and I see what they do. Everyone uses compression. You use it to control the dynamics, bro. You need to. You know what I mean? So I feel as if though not using it completely is overkill, but using it sparingly, using it here and there is decent. You know what I mean? You can get away with that for real.
So what should we do instead? Just like he was mentioning, alongside compression, I will clip gain the vocal. You can see that I went up about 4.5 dB here, and here is about 0. If I put this back to where it was before, you can see that this waveform is significantly quieter than this section, and it just creates an inconsistent vocal. So what I did was I turned this up by around 4 dB, so that way when it goes into compression, I'm not having to compress too hard, and it sounds a lot more natural.
But to stand, to suffer, to serve. And if the
Mixing trick number 2 is
That's interesting though. Like I've never actually thought of doing clip gain throughout the mix. Usually I just do it whilst I'm recording someone. Let's say if they've done something that's a bit too loud or a bit too quiet, and I'm just like, okay, now I really need this to come up just a tiny bit, but I don't want to touch, my chain. Then I'll then go in and highlight that specific bit and then clip gain it. But I've never thought to myself, okay, cool, in an entire mix, you need to actually do this. So it's a very interesting technique. Also, by the way, guys, I'm a mix master engineer, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So I've been really thinking to post on my other channel, like some mixing tutorials, some production tutorials, some sessions, and things that I just do day in, day out anyways, because I've been in the game for so long, but content is something that's still new. I'm just experimenting on different type of folds, etc. So if you guys want me to actually do that, then just comment down below and I'll actually start posting that channel. And yeah, man, you guys will start seeing some great stuff. If you want to hear some of my work, you should just hit me up on Instagram at Okiki Beats, or you can go to Spotify, listen to people like Figzo, or just type in mix by Okiki Beats. That's like a whole playlist. I have some of my mixes in there anyways. You get what I'm saying?
And mixing trick number 3 is the Pultec punch. This is one that actually gets talked about a little bit, but I still don't think it's talked about enough. The Pultec is a passive EQ that really has a lot of characteristic to it. And it got its name And that Pultec punch gets its name from the Pultec EQ. You can boost the low end around 60 hertz and attenuate that same section. And it creates this really interesting curve in the low end that just gives a bunch of punch. So boosting and attenuating about the same right at that low frequency of 40 to 60 hertz will just make things sound like this. So with it off,
To blended,
on,
I was called to burn. I was not safe to stay safe.
That it really boosts the low end. And with the Portec, right, I think I got this from a Dave Pensado interview, funny enough. They were talking about how a lot of people don't realize that when you boost and attenuate at the same rate, so just for people that don't understand how the Portec kind of works, it's a passive EQ that it has a select amount of frequencies that you can actually boost, because back then when you're using analog gear, you couldn't go in like with a fab filter or like the EQs that we have right now, the parametric ones, where you can literally see the waves and do like 100 cuts and boosts and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So back then, what mix engineers would do is that they will have either an SSL board and they'll have to EQ by air, or they'll have like a pull tech. And with that pull tech, what they will then do is, for example, they will make minor boosts or minor cuts here and there, but it will affect like a whole range or a smaller range depending on how they tune the bandwidth. But in saying that, I remember watching a Dave Pensado interview, and it was just talking about how a lot of people don't realize this exact same trick, like where you can boost it and you can attenuate it. And what it does, people think that it's doing what a parametric EQ is doing, where it will boost it, for example, and then if you cancel it out, it's basically just canceling out to zero. It doesn't do that. With a pull tech, it creates like an interesting kind of curve where it's like, imagine this, then instead of it just being like, I don't know, like, like it's a bad explanation, guys, I know. But instead of it being like a boost, it will then become like a curve, because that extra thing's basically coming down and softening it and creating like a weird type of curve that actually just sounds amazing. So especially on vocals, I use the pull tech all the time, and I use it to get like a warm but not too muddy type, vocal. Or if I wanted to get that air, then I'll just boost up, the 8 or the 10Ks, and I'll just put it back so that it's not you doing the whole shh kind of thing, and I need to over DS it, for example. So yeah, man, proper trick still.
mixing trick number 4 is crank the darn knobs. I used to have this mentor who was super talented at what he did. And he would always tell me as I was making adjustments to things, he'd say, Andrew, no one's going to die. Crank the darn knobs. Because the thing is, you don't have enough context to know what this is actually sounding like. A lot of you guys are tweaking compressors or EQs at 0.5, 1 dB, trying to hear a difference. What you should do is crank the knob all the way up, all the way down, instantly get context on what it's supposed to sound like, and then you could dial it back to a more musical level. This is also helpful with compression. You can put compression at a 20-to-1 ratio or the highest ratio you can possibly set, adjust all of your other knobs, and then you can dial that ratio back to a more musical level. Every professional that I've ever met cranks the knobs, and they make quick, aggressive decisions.
Facts. I love that so much. You see what it is like when you first get into the game, you're just thinking that anything that you touch is just gonna mess up the entire mix or mess up the entire vocal. But you're not realizing that by making those massive quick decisions, you're able to get an end result way quicker because you know exactly what you're affecting. I remember when I first got into the game, I'll literally just be here like spending an hour on the compressor, like, oh, like I don't like how it's like, but now, bro, I slap on a compressor, make an aggressive decision, boost down. It's like, oh, I don't really like that. I turn it down. I don't really like that. Cool. Move on to the next one. Do you know what I mean? Very, very quick decisions. Because you're mixing, and mixing usually takes a long time to mix, anyways. I've now created a system where I mix in 45 to maybe 1 hour sessions max. I can get an entire mix done in that type of time. And then maybe the next day I'll revisit it or whatever. But I usually get it right in the first maybe 1 or 2 tries. Thank God, and it's taken a long time to kind of do that. And I'm still improving, by the way. I'm not like a mixing legend or whatever. But what I realized by, again, watching a lot of the professional tutorials and speaking to professional guys, people that I've recorded or mixed or mastered for like, big art acts in like Canada and America, in Europe, or even over here, they all say the same thing. You got to be very quick and decisive on decisions you want to make, and go in with the intention of getting the end result that you desire. So don't just pick and slap on random plugins for no reason. You need to be like, okay, cool, the vocals are a bit muddy. I need an EQ to basically cut out that mud, but also not cut out maybe all the dynamics or the natural tone within the vocal, for example. So I'll use maybe a Pultec rather than using like a parametric. Do you know what I mean? These are educated decisions that you can basically make. I know I'm gonna upload this on my reaction channel, but like I said, guys, if you want me to start posting on my music channel, which I haven't posted on in years, which is crazy, but if you want me to post over there, then I'll definitely make sure to, and I'll just give you guys my perspective on this stuff. Because as you guys can tell, I'm very passionate about it and I understand the technicalities behind it as well. So yeah, but other than that, please guys, watch this video because you need to learn and just get better at your stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow for real.